It's time for HawgSports Live from HawgSports.com, a division of 24/7 Sports, presented by Crain Automotive. The Crain Team's got 'em. Visit them online at crainteam.com. And now with the latest breaking updates on HawgSports, here's Trey Biddy.
Got to add to the stage. What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. A lot going on, obviously, with Razorback football. Players announcing that they're entering the transfer portal. Coaches being hired seamlessly, an unlimited number of coaches. We'll get into some of the things going on with both of those categories. We'll talk a little bit about Razorback basketball as well. Big game coming up Saturday against Texas Tech. Your questions also. All that and more on today's episode of Hawg Sports Live. The Crain Automotive Team has 16 locations across our state and is home to the Crain Commitment. You'll find Ford, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, and access to thousands of pre-owned vehicles. Vehicles for every lifestyle and every budget. Even if you're not in the market for a vehicle, the Crain Team Service Centers offer the latest in vehicle diagnostic technology and certified technicians to take care of your vehicle and get you back on the road. Check them out at crainteam.com. Hawg Sports Live is driven by the Crain Automotive Team.
You've done it. Now you're the Crain Cash champ. You just won big with the Crain Team. Go ahead, soak it up. How could you not feel like a winner? You dominated with our low price guarantee, and you got way more for your trade. Plus, with statewide delivery on thousands of vehicles from 16 locations, and the fact that we'll beat any other dealer's price, we make our Kansans feel like champions every day. That's winning. That's the Crain Team. Visit crainteam.com.
A lot of crazy stuff going out there and going on in college football, not just on the field, but off the field, obviously. We got the college football playoff coming up not too far. Bowl teams, a lot of teams opting out of those games. Some interesting stuff. Of course, everything going on at Michigan right now with Sharon Moore. I mean, wow, dude's 39 years old and is caught up in all kinds of stuff. He was detained by police. I mean, you guys have read all the headlines. This isn't a Michigan show, but holy cow. This is from Justin Spiro of Dakota State News. It says, Michigan has had 11 staffers either arrested, 7, or banned from the sport for rules violations, 4, since Jim Harbaugh arrived. Obviously, he's not there anymore, but one national championship, Spygate. Michigan's a place to watch, obviously. There could be a lot of movement there with players entering the transfer portal, maybe even recruits that signed. So something to keep an eye on. Arkansas basketball playing Texas Tech, number 16 Texas Tech. That's at 11 a.m. on ESPN2. That'll be at American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. Again, that's Saturday, December 3rd, 11 a.m. One of many really intriguing games that Arkansas has on the schedule this year. Obviously, they've played a few of them already. Fernando Carmona has been named a finalist for the 2025 Hispanic College Football Player of the Year. It's probably going to be a hard award for him to win as an offensive lineman this year, considering you have Fernando Mendoza at Indiana and Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt. So nice to see him nominated, but definitely not going to win that. The latest report out there is Arkansas's coaching staff. Their 10th hire is TJ Rushing, their 3rd secondary coach hire, according to reports. Now, it's important to remember that you can have, as of June of 2024, you can have as many on-field coaches as you want. You can only have 10 guys that can go out and do recruiting and stuff, but you can have as many. It kind of removed the blur of analyst and all that kind of stuff because, teams have kind of worked around that rule. So they basically just got rid of it and said you can have as many assistant coaches as you want now. I don't know that it makes sense that Arkansas would have 3 full-time secondary coaches. But again, you can have as many as you want. But TJ Rushing worked at Memphis under Ryan Silverfield from 2018 to 19. He was a defensive backs coach there. He was defensive backs coach at Texas A&M from 20 to 23. Defensive backs coach at Auburn in 2024. he was special assistant to the head coach in 2024, and then he was safeties coach at Auburn in 2025. So he's got a lot of experience. Former NFL player, was on a Super Bowl team at Indianapolis. He was there 4 or 5 years, I guess. So that's an intriguing addition. There has been some talk about, I've just heard around, kind of in the background, a little talk about Nathan Brown as a potential hire for quarterbacks coach. That's the UCA head coach. Now, that's nothing official, but I've had a couple of people tell me to watch out for that. So maybe that's something to watch with Nathan Brown at UCA, who was a record-setting quarterback there. He's been there a number of years. So that's a story to watch if that comes to fruition. Right now, you've got Ryan Silverfield, obviously, as the head coach. Tim Cramsey is the offensive coordinator, who comes with him from Memphis, and Larry Smith as well with wide receivers. David Johnson, who's the running backs coach, coming in from Florida State. Marcus Johnson and Jeff Myers as the offensive line coaches. Marcus Johnson has been a lot of different places, been at Mississippi State, Missouri, Purdue, a lot of different spots, and was an assistant offensive line coach with Ohio State this past year. Jeff Myers, who was running game coordinator and offensive line coach at Memphis. Defense, Ron Roberts, who's been a lot of different places, really. We talked about him a lot last week, kind of an innovator in the field. And then you're talking Darren Wilson coming back. He was at Florida last year. Now, Darren Wilson left last year to take the Georgia State defensive coordinator job. Then Florida came after him for their secondary coach position, and obviously the Florida staff has been let go. But Darren Wilson, word is he's coming back. This is from Matt Zenitz. Most of this stuff is from Zenitz with CBS Sports and 24/7 Sports. TJ Rushing, who we just talked about, that's actually from another source at ESPN. And then CJ Wilford, who was at Georgia State. And then Chad Lunsford is special teams coordinator. Scott Gasper, expected to be the GM of football. Nick Matthews, a senior offensive analyst, which the analyst line is just kind of blurred now in a lot of ways, because you can do on-field stuff, basically. So a lot of movement there with the assistant coach hires, or unofficial. None of these have been officially announced. Ryan Silverfield woke up at, who knows what time he woke up, but at 6:44 this morning, he posted on X. He said, "Good morning, Razorback fans," and it was a picture of the stadium, and you're just kind of like, how can we overanalyze this? How many what will people come up with for what he actually means by just saying good morning, Razorback fans? So anyway, that's where things are right now with the coaching staff. Nothing has been, not even Ron Roberts or Cramsey. I think Cramsey or Roberts might have been the first ones that came out, and nothing has been announced officially through the University of Arkansas. I do think it'll be interesting to see when it all comes out how things break down for the staff, the salaries, because that's really the only metric that we have. They talked about more money for NIL, more money for, and we'd eventually find out, what they're putting into football, like end of the year, next year, kind of all the way around. But as far as immediate, what is their financial commitment to football? The best way to find out is through the salary pool. Arkansas is a public institution. We'll be able to find out every single one of these coaches' salaries. Last year, it was $6.19 million for the assistant coach salaries. We'll dive into that a little bit more. So, yes, we'll dive into that a little bit more. Let's get to, I'd like to talk real quick, just Bet Saracen. We're going to go ahead and do the wager. We usually don't do it this early, but we're going to go ahead and do the wager wagon because Arkansas's game against Arkansas State is coming up. So, Arkansas, did I say Arkansas? Texas Tech. I don't know where that came from. Arkansas's game against Texas Tech is coming up. Arkansas is plus 1.5 in this one, and the over-under is 151.5. I'm taking, so just looking at Arkansas, first of all, I'm taking Arkansas at plus 1.5. I like the Hogs in this one. They've lost to Duke, they've lost to Michigan State, and they won at home most recently against Louisville. But away from Bud Walton Arena, they have not beaten one of these teams, unless you're counting the exhibition, against Memphis. But they haven't beaten one of these teams that are ranked, So I'm going to take Arkansas to finally get that done. Arkansas is averaging against notable opponents this year 74.5 points. 75.3 points. Texas Tech against their notable opponents is averaging 74.5. The over-under is 151.5. Last year when they played, this was 72-72 at the end of regulation, which Arkansas, as we know, had a 16-point lead with like 9:20-something left. Had a 16-point lead in the game. And I believe they led by like 11 or 12 with under 5 minutes left. I always look at games like that, like, okay, 5 minutes left, they're up by 10, they should win. And almost, I can't remember an instance where they haven't. I always look at that. Up by 10 with 5 minutes left, Arkansas is winning, or whoever they're playing is winning. And it is, I can't remember it not happening, except for this game last year against Texas Tech. So, really interesting rematch, but 72-72 last year. I'm going to take the under in this. I'm going to take Arkansas plus 1.5, and I'm going to take the under in this one also. So that's the Bet Saracen wager wagon for this week.
Arkansas's favorite sports stars explain what they like most about Bet Saracen.
Bet Saracen is not only Arkansas's top sports betting app, it's also the 13th largest in the nation.
Darren McFadden. And there's a serious plow horse. No wonder Jerry liked him.
Check out this Bet Saracen promo.
Place $5 or more parlays, and if yours rank among the top winning odds, score your share of $50,000.
Okay. Arkansas, Bet Saracen has Arkansas's #1 sports betting app, by the way. So if you haven't signed up at Bet Saracen, now's a good time to do so. You can hit the link below in the description, and you can enter the promo code BIDDY125, capital BIDDY 125. And if you do that and you place a $25 bet, at least 25, you'll receive $125 in bonuses that you can use to bet at Bet Saracen. So pretty good deal. Make your first bet, get 125 back. Capital BIDDY 125. Okay, so right now let's talk about transfer portal real quick. The latest transfer portal news right now, as of this morning at 9:32 a.m., Tavion Wallace, there was an announcement per Hayes Fawcett that he was going to enter the transfer portal. He plans to enter transfer portal. Transfer portal opens January 2nd through the 16th, and then it closes. Arkansas classes, the last day to enroll for classes is the 16th. I've looked that up. So that's the last day to get in a class. If you're not done on the 16th, that's a Friday, I think, then you're not enrolling to go to Arkansas for that semester. So that's when the portal runs, the 2nd through the 16th. You've got plenty of players announcing that they are entering the transfer portal. The latest news since we did the show on Monday, Shaq McCroy, Arkansas offensive lineman, former top 100 prospect, transferred to Arkansas from Oregon. He's a redshirt sophomore. He's originally from Alabama, but he announced his plan to enter the transfer portal, and then nothing happened yesterday. And then today, Thursday at 9:32, Tavion Wallace. Tavion Wallace was the number 185 ranked prospect in the entire country last year when he signed with Arkansas. He's out of Georgia originally. So none of these are big surprises. I mean, we've talked about the importance of keeping your good players. Both of these guys are well-regarded good players. When you have basically a complete staff overhaul, this is the kind of stuff that's going to happen, And by the way, congratulations to Eric Mateos. He was a guy that we talked about. A lot of people wanted to stay. He is going to be the Wisconsin head coach. So he's a guy that I think I'll always kind of follow. I thought he did a good job here. He really loves it here. Wanted to stay here. I think it just obviously didn't work out. So where does that put Arkansas right now for scholarships? I've got him at 71 total scholarships. As we know, 105 is the max now. So it's not only 105 scholarships, but that's also the total roster limit, 105. I think I've said this on the show before, but I found it kind of funny, like back at SEC Media Days last year when Sam Pittman was like, we're always going to have a walk-on at Arkansas, just to carry on the tradition, Brandon Burlsworth, all that kind of stuff. But that basically means you have 105 scholarships, you have 105 max roster size. So you're going to give out 104 scholarships, and you're just going to hold this one and tell this kid, It's about $100,000 over the next 4 years. And we've got the scholarship for you, but we really want to carry this tradition. I mean, I always thought that was so bizarre. I think I brought that up on the show before, but just kind of wild. So Arkansas at 71 right now. I've got 3 quarterbacks on the roster, 5 running backs. And I've broken this down as easy as possible. You can go look at it at HawgSports, but I've broken it down into categories of guys who are staying, have announced they're staying, and we're including the guys that just signed with Arkansas, the recruits. We've got a category of coming, leaving, and not announced, and we're doing it position by position. So you can easily look on there, okay, this guy said he's staying. These guys are coming in from the transfer portal. These guys are exiting through the transfer portal. And these guys haven't really said if they're coming or, if they're staying or not yet. So it's real easy to follow along with this on our scholarship distribution chart. We've also got our transfer portal live tracker that keeps up with, in a timeline format, everything that's happening with the transfer portal. We've got another Arkansas transfer portal, which just lists the players who are coming in and list the players who are leaving. And also down here, a subcategory for guys who said they're leaving or did leave and then are coming back out of the transfer portal and returning to Arkansas. So we've got a transfer portal mega thread at HawgSports where we just talk about everything going on with Razorback and the transfer portal. Guys that seem intriguing, guys that may have been recruited in the past by Arkansas who have entered the transfer portal, all that kind of stuff. So, and a lot of fan discussion, so be sure to check that out. HawgSports is 50% off, by the way, right now, HawgSports.com. All right, wide receiver, I've got them at a dozen wide receivers right now. I've got them at 3 tight ends, 12 offensive linemen. Let me see on wide receiver, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yep. 3 tight ends, 12 offensive linemen, 4 nose guards. So we're going to break things down into different categories, 3 different, kind of 4 if you consider this guy a defensive lineman. He's an edge guy, the jack. But we're going to do nose guard, defensive tackle, defensive end, and the jack position. So the nose is going to be your zero technique. Your defensive tackle is going to be, your defensive lineman who is on the same side as the jack, which is a hybrid, think about 6'4", 250 type of guy. And then you have your defensive end, which is basically a smaller defensive tackle, and if you were running a 4-man front. So 4 nose guards. They need, 4.5 of these guys, basically, at each of these positions. 3 defensive tackles, 3 defensive ends, 5 players that I think could play jack. I've just kind of broken these guys down into categories like Ken Talley, who knows if he returns or not. Charlie Collins, who I think probably fits this position, fits the mold of this position really well. Kavion Henderson, Trent Sellers. Those are the guys that I kind of placed in that jack type of category, along with Colton Yarborough, the freshman. And who knows, he could pack on a lot of weight. Sometimes freshmen do that, obviously. And then linebacker, I got him with 5. Cornerbacks, I have him with 6. Safety, 7. I got a kicker. I got a punter. I got no long snapper. 71 total. 36 on offense, 33 on defense, 2 specialists. Easy way to keep up with all that kind of stuff. All right, I mentioned the salary pool a little bit, and we don't have the 2025 salaries. This is, USA Today compiles all this stuff, does a great job. It's easy to find information on salaries through them. But we don't have the 2025 salaries. We've got 2024 stuff. Obviously, a lot changed in 2025 with more teams having more assistant coaches and stuff. But what we do know is Arkansas was, out of the 15 public schools in the SEC, Vanderbilt doesn't have to report any of this stuff, and they don't. Out of the 15 schools in the SEC, Arkansas was 14th in spending for the assistant salary pool at $6.19 million. Only Mississippi State was lower at $5.26 million. Georgia, as you might expect, has a large salary pool, $10.3 million. Again, this is 2024 numbers, not 2025. That's over $4 million more than Arkansas. Over $4 million. Now, there are other teams out there who did more with less. South Carolina in 2024, they went 9-4. Obviously didn't do very well last year, but they had 6.6 million. Missouri 6.98 and went 10-3 that season. Missouri only had Tennessee had 7.1 million in 2024 and went 10-3 that year. Made the college football playoff. Texas A&M, I think Texas A&M was a little bit surprising. They're at 7.2. I bet they're more now. I bet that's changed quite a bit. And they went 8-5 that year. Now that was the first year under Mike Elko, so probably one reason it was a lower salary pool that first year. But they went 11-1 this year during the regular season. Alabama at 9.5 million, Texas 9.1, LSU 9.3. So Florida, their salary pool was only 6.6 million, which I guess lends to maybe some of the struggles that they had there also. Ole Miss, as you might expect, had a higher than I guess you would have expected in the past at 8.2 million. They went 10-3 that year and then sandwiched 11 win seasons between those. So this will be the interesting thing. This will be the one thing that we will be able to look at immediately in the next, within the next month or so, sooner than that really, to say like, okay, they have definitely increased their salary pool for assistant coaches. That wasn't, made up. We won't be able to tell for NIL, probably never will be until some kind of rules or something change, but we'll never be able to tell for NIL. We won't be able to tell until the budget and all that kind of stuff comes out, the financial reports come out, a year from now on the revenue report and all that stuff, what was spent, what came into the athletic department, all that kind of stuff, what was spent on a recruiting budget, what was spent on travel budget, all those types of things. So that'll be a while. We obviously know Ryan Silverfield is making $6.7 million, which is more than Pittman made at Arkansas, slightly. Definitely way more than he made initially when he signed with it. I think Pittman's salary was $3 million or something, pretty low. So this will be one thing that we'll be able to look at and say, okay, yeah, they are spending more money. They certainly have a high number of assistant coaches signed. It's going to be interesting to see how this all lines up too, with the number of guys that are on board. So Connor, we're ready for you if you're ready. If you want to give me a thumbs up if you're ready to go. Okay. Well, Connor's going to join us here on the Ozarks Go hotline. And for those of you who don't know about Ozarks Go, you should find out because it's fast, reliable, consistent internet service. They offer several different tiers of internet service. I use the Megabit Plus, which is 2,500 megabits per second, which is flying. I used to use the Gigabit, which is 1,000, which I think is probably great for most families. I obviously use a ton of stuff. This show right now is streaming on Ozarks Go, and never had to unplug my router. It's just worked consistently, and we certainly appreciate them over the last 4 years and have been a sponsor with us for the last 3 years. So go check them out, 479-684-4900, or go to ozarksgo.net/hawg, HAWG. Find out if they're available in your area, Northwest Arkansas, parts of Oklahoma, not where Connor lives, unfortunately. Connor, how you doing, brother?
What's up, Trey? Can't really complain too much. Really looking forward to watching Arkansas Texas Tech Saturday. It's gonna be a big one, big opportunity for the Hogs.
Yeah. What did Carter Knox have to say? He had a press conference with you guys at 9:30 this morning.
Yeah. So Carter, man, he didn't really make any bones about it. This is a get back opportunity for the Hogs. He has, Calipari on Monday at his radio show, he called in. He was on a recruiting visit. And he called in and he said normally he doesn't rewatch the final game of every season, but he had to because they're playing Texas Tech this year. And he was wanting to, he mentioned how Malik Ewan, he showed clips before Louisville. Well, he's doing the same thing with Carter Knox and DJ of last year's season-ending loss to Texas Tech going into Saturday. Carter Knox, he wants revenge, man. He and the returning guys are really focused on going out there and kind of making up for last year's kind of disappointing end. They had that game, and you go back, you watch that game. 4 minutes and 43 seconds left in the game. Arkansas was up by 13, and over that final span, Texas Tech just completely took the air out of the building. Arkansas couldn't get anything going offensively. It was a really, really disappointing loss. And that's something that you can really tell is sticking with this team. And hopefully they go out and they're focused and they're able to really kind of give fans that satisfying ending and that revenge that they're looking for.
Yeah. Billy Richmond hit Nellie Davis for a layup, and the game was over. It was 69-56.
Yeah, I have so many vivid memories of that game, and just how, with like halfway through the second half, behind me was the contingent of Arkansas fans there in the building, and I was on the baseline of where Arkansas was on offense at that final stretch, and it really started to feel like fans are really getting ready to celebrate, and really kind of that relief that you can kind of feel building halfway through the second half. And then the final 5-minute stretch, man, it just the mood shifted, almost like when I think Texas Tech got within 7 or so. It was just like that. The mood in the building completely changed. Arkansas got tight. And the locker room after was something I'll never forget either. It's just really disappointing because Arkansas had it. And then you kind of look ahead, Texas Tech almost knocked off Florida. You think if Arkansas could have hang on, maybe we're talking about a Final Four team. And Calipari certainly is confident that they would have gone on and possibly won a national championship if they win that game. So a lot of storylines and narratives that I think it's going to mean a little extra than some of these other contests for the Razorbacks.
I'll say this. So we were on a ski trip for spring break. I took my wife and daughter, and there was a ton of it. I mean, there was a ton of Arkansas people, to the point where we go on this trip and I'm on the lift and, start talking to somebody next to me, and they're like, "Where are you from?" "Arkansas." "Of course you're from Arkansas. Everyone here is from Arkansas," and there's a big contingent from Jonesboro, also from the other side of the state, that are also there in Crested Butte. So we all get together and we're going to have a watch party. I think it's our last night to be there, and we're going to have this big watch party. We already communicated with the bar, the people in the restaurant, to stay open later than they normally do so we can watch the game. And we got the place packed out. And so we're all there watching, cheering on and stuff. And there are a couple of Texas Tech fans that came in and started acting like such jackasses, they weren't invited to the party, and they're coming, they're just there and they're coming by, and, we're all back and forth with them and, kind of run their ass out of there. And, so that all happened. And then as I go out after the game, and I was like, well, at least I don't live in Lubbock. And I mean, by the time I got back to the place we were staying, I look at my phone and I'm like, everybody from Lubbock, Texas is on me. Like, even the former mayor is like, "Fight me." I was just like, oh my gosh, I pissed off all of Lubbock. When it was just, I was mad at those people that came and kind of crashed the party and, started talking crap and stuff. But I don't know. I think I've made some amends with Lubbock just after Josh Pates' comments on, how impressed he was with everything there. My experiences there weren't always, I was never blown away with Lubbock. But anyway.
Yeah, that's kind
I didn't mean it, Lubbock. I'm sorry. And to the former mayor who wants to fight me.
I mean, that's been the narrative and stuff for forever. It feels like there's nothing in Lubbock. I had a couple of run-ins with some Tech fans in San Francisco after that. I saw some at a restaurant me and my wife went to, and I was doing some work at the restaurant, and they asked me, they're like, "I saw you had a Arkansas something, and your wife's wearing an Arkansas shirt. You Razorback fans?" And I kind of explained to them, and then they're just like, "Man, we thought y'all had it, man." And they're just like, "Man, we're so glad we won," and like all this stuff. But it was more like a inauthentic, like, "Oh, y'all are such a good team." They didn't say anything. They're just like, "Man, y'all had us, but we're just too good," kind of a little cocky, and I wasn't really expecting that. But it was a tough loss. I remember kind of being shell shocked too, just because you kind of have your thoughts on what you're going to write and kind of the angle through the course of a game. You're just kind of thinking through different things in our line of work, and it just completely shifted last minute, and I was just kind of like, what? It was a lot to process. So hopefully Saturday they can go out and kind of rewrite that and get their lick back. Calipari's pretty good in some of these revenge games, man. He went, obviously beat Oakland last year, who ended the season the year before at Kentucky, and then obviously went into Rupp, and we know how that went out. So, I'm really looking forward to this. Arkansas really needs this for their resume. It would be huge. I did an article today looking at some of the metrics. Arkansas starting to really, metrics are starting to come around to the Hogs, and if they could win on Saturday, man, that would be a huge boost to their resume going into conference.
This holiday season, shop for a meaningful gift that will last at Blakeman's Fine Jewelry, the official jeweler of the Arkansas Razorbacks. From exceptional diamonds and homeware to designer jewelry and timepieces from brands like David Yurman, Rolex, Tudor, Baccarat, and more. Enjoy a festive shopping experience both in-store at 3202 Pinnacle Hills Parkway in Rogers and from anywhere at BlakemansFineJewelry.com. Make your holidays unforgettable with Blakeman's. Connor, you got your Christmas shopping done?
I've got a little bit of it done. We got family coming in. We're about to start the every weekend. We're trying to do Christmases with in-laws and stuff like that. So we're getting a little bit done, not completely done yet, but
we used to have 5 Christmases. Like just because I'm a child of divorce. So we would do. My mom had a Christmas. My dad had a Christmas. Mary Linda's parents had a Christmas. We had our own Christmas, and then Mary Linda's dad's side of the family did a Christmas. We'd had 5. It's brutal. I mean, like it made you kind of not dread it, but kind of dread it in the same way. But now we're down to 3 Christmases now. Our Christmas, mom's Christmas.
My wife's family, they go every Christmas Eve. They go up to Evening Shade, Arkansas. Bonus points if you can tell me where Evening Shade is.
I can tell you there was a show with Burt Reynolds when I was a kid called Evening Shade, based in Evening Shade, Arkansas.
Yeah, well, so that's where we'll be Christmas Day up there with family. It's a really nice place. They have a farm up there, but it is like 2.5 hours out of the way. It's up right outside of Batesville, like north of Batesville, kind of Cave City area. So we'll be up there Christmas, but we've got, child of divorce as well. We've got a lot of families and in-laws doing different Christmases and stuff. So it's a hectic time. And then luckily they're kind of understanding now that kind of work with basketball season takes a little bit of precedence. So I have a little bit of leeway to make some of this stuff fit into my schedule a little better.
So this is hilarious. The reason I know it's around there, my stepdad lived there as a kid in Evening Shade. And I think like maybe the first year that him and my mom got married, I remember the first time he lost his mind on us getting pissed because there was 4 of us kids. And Evening Shade came on in the first episode, and we just wouldn't shut up. We didn't care, we didn't care about it. We were talking, and back then there was no rewind or stop or pause or anything. And he got so pissed at us because we wouldn't stop talking and interrupting and acting the fool, all this kind of stuff. But that always like something that sticks out. I was like, oh, this is the first time my stepdad got pissed at us, but it was over Evening Shade.
That's funny.
So I remember. I was just going to say also, if you hadn't done all your shopping, there's, you can shop anywhere at Blakeman's. You can shop online and get it delivered if you need to. Hey,
if anyone's looking for me, Walker Brothers, man.
Yeah.
They got some good stuff over there.
Walker Brothers has some great stuff. I was there this week. I said I got a shacket over there, and somebody's like, what is a shacket? But a shacket, it's kind of like a thick shirt. You can kind of substitute as a shirt or a jacket. I don't know if I would ever wear this just as a shirt, but it's got like little pin buttons on it. Pretty sharp looking shacket. I remember Darian Williams. He's not there. He's at NC State now, but he had 20 and 9 against Arkansas last year. But there are obviously familiar names. JT Toppin put 20 and 10 on the Hogs, 20 and 11.
Yeah.
Arkansas last year. 20 and 10 on Arkansas last year. And then, Christian Anderson's back with them.
Yep.
He had
22. Those are the 2 big returners for Texas Tech, and obviously played a key role in last year's game. They're, JT Toppin's averaging 21 and 12 right now through 8 games this season. Christian Anderson's right behind him in points, 19.1 points per game. Their guard Donovan Atwell is looking through some of these guys doing the tell the tape preview, and Donovan Atwell is a transfer guard from UNC Greensboro. He's actually played Arkansas twice in his career already. The final 2 seasons under Musselman, UNC Greensboro came to Fayetteville. His first time out, he went like 4 of 6 from 3, had 12 points in 13 minutes. And then the final time he played Arkansas as a sophomore, he played 33 minutes and had more fouls than points, 4 fouls and 3 points. So he's got a little bit of experience against Arkansas, averaging 12 points per game on 44% from 3. So Texas Tech has got some really good players. They're really similar to Arkansas. Like their offense is, I believe right now, they're 20th in defense and 31st in offense, according to KenPom. So Arkansas is like 46th and 28th in offense and defense efficiency. So very similar teams. Texas Tech's going to like to shoot the 3 ball, so Arkansas's 3-point defense is going to be really key, I think, to slowing them down. And then obviously, always when you're talking about this Arkansas team, offensive rebounds, second chance points, it's going to be key for Arkansas to pick up a win. So just some things to look at. And then obviously I'll have more in-depth stuff on Tell the Tape, which will be coming out either later today or first thing in the morning.
How do you feel about your internet service, Connor? You feel like it's as good as Ozark Go?
I can tell you this: if Ozark Go was down here, I would probably have switched a long time ago. Yeah. I can tell you that.
I don't think I ever freeze, but we're usually good with one freeze up from you every show. But your voice still comes through. Yeah.
I think I was connected to the Ethernet, but I'm gonna have to replace the Ethernet cord because it's kind of going in and out on me. Yeah.
All right, brother. Anything else to add? Any other interest? You got a pick for this game? You make your best Saracen pick?
Man, I think it's going to be close. I could really see it. It's kind of a toss up in my mind. But I do think that Arkansas, just with the revenge, how they're kind of talking, I like their attitude coming into this game. I kind of give Arkansas the edge here. Arkansas has been really competitive in their Power 4 games. Texas Tech almost beat Illinois, and then they got swacked by 30 to Purdue. So who knows? I think I like Arkansas here. But obviously, it's neutral site, anything can happen. So I'm not super confident in that either. We know we've seen this Arkansas team, the ebb and flows with them. So I like the Hogs, but I'm not 100% confident that they'll get a win. But so that's kind of where I stand.
Okay. All right, Connor. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, Trey.
Oops, that's Connor Goodson. Follow him at Connor Goodson on X. Read his content at HawgSports. Does a tremendous job for us, covering Razorback basketball and doing a little bit of everything else. Just kind of has his hand in everything. So certainly appreciate him. We were talking about Walker Brothers a moment ago, and I would like to say Walker Brothers brings you the finest men's clothing from around the world, carefully selected to last, fit right, and help you look your best. From game day essentials to distinguished luxury wear, from a meticulously fitted suit to the perfectly faded pair of jeans, every piece in their collection is hand-selected for enduring quality and iconic style. Experience that undeniable confidence that comes with perfecting your personal style. Visit them at 577 Millsap Road, Suite number 6 in Fayetteville, or at their brand new location, 3503 South 55th Street, Suite 101 in Rogers. I may have to stop by there again. I need some more festive stuff. We got holiday parties and stuff coming up. I wonder if they have a festive section. All right. So we're going to go to your questions. Last week we had to cut it short because I had this dude who would not take no. So this is the home office right here. I have a whole section on this side of the house that is dedicated to all my work stuff. But for some reason, UPS has us listed as a business, even though we're in a residential neighborhood, and has for 4 years. And if you can help me, I would be forever grateful, because I've talked to them. They said they have changed it before, but they make me sign for stuff UPS. And this dude would not take no for an answer. Knocking on the door, dog's going nuts. 5 times, ringing the doorbell. Comes over here to the side door, knocking at the door. Like, I appreciate it because, we needed the delivery and everything, but I had to cut the show. We were 55 minutes. We usually go about that probably. So But I didn't get to everybody's questions, but I went back onto the Razor's Edge forum and answered them individually just through type. So anyway, we'll get to some questions here, see what people have to say. Maybe we'll check some of the comments here also. CK Hawk fan says, going to have to be a long show to get through these coaches. What are we that they're adding? Yeah. Mickey Hollerhog says, would you explain the practical benefit, if any, of having expanded staff to the average fan, and how are we expanding the staff if we don't have any money? Right. I think you said that tongue in cheek there, Mickey Holler, but I think that they're showing that they do have some money with the expanded staff, but also, the reason that they did it, I think, was to cut down on kind of a blurred line with teams were having like analysts do on-field stuff, and you've always had assistant coaches. Like you always have had like an assistant offensive line coach, an assistant defensive line coach. So you always had guys like that. But basically, I think it's you kind of remove that analyst tag a little bit. So it's possible that some of these guys will be more of an analyst type salary, which analyst salaries can range all over the place. I mean, you can have guys making couple $100,000 as an analyst, or you could have a guy making $50,000 being an analyst. It just depends on what kind of background you have. So I think the more coaches you have, probably the more benefit. I mean, it makes sense to have a couple of offensive line coaches now, an interior guy and a tackles guy. It makes sense to have, an inside linebackers coach and an outside linebackers coach, or a defensive ends coach, a defensive tackles coach, safeties coach, cornerbacks coach. It makes sense to have all that kind of stuff. So I think it's probably just improves overall teaching. It's more people to keep on the same page, but I think it should be a benefit. But also everybody's doing it, so it's just like, it's kind of like when that first bank is like, you know what, we're going to open on Sundays, and now everybody has to open on a Sunday. So maybe it's just kind of like that. Cold Tap says, when are the DC and DL and LB coaches going to be hired, formally announced? That's a great question. I thought that maybe there was a chance when Silverfield had his Good Morning Razorback fans. I thought maybe there's a chance, but there has not been a single official hire announced. So it feels like they're maybe going to do it all at once, but there's not been a single official one. Pittsburgh Squealer says, I heard the guys knocking on your last episode was the one guy telling you he wrote it up your froly. Yeah. No, I didn't. Those guys have gotten back with me. They're going to try to make it right. So I never said their name. Noted. It was, I never said their name. But, man, I was pissed. I haven't been pissed like that. I mean, since well before anger management therapy. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been mad like that. Josh Josh says, not the real Josh Pate, by the way. What's your thoughts on the turnaround at Indiana? Has Curt Cignetti changed your understanding of talent acquisition, or is there just an abundance of bad coaching in our sport? Arkansas has a more talented team on paper, and look at the difference. Yeah, I think it's the guys that you get in your program. You know what I like about Fernando Mendoza is he looks at the camera like, I don't like it. Like, he shouldn't do it. When somebody asks you a question, you're interviewing, you're like, yeah, we work hard every day. We come out here, give 110%, and all these guys bought in, but Fernando's like, he's like, yeah, we gave 110%. All these guys fought, I'd like to thank the Lord and all this stuff, and he's looking at the camera, like the TV camera, when he's being interviewed, it's like, it's not really how you're supposed to do it, but I kind of like it. I appreciate his energy. And we're flipping Big Ten champs. But he just does it. I think it's like, I've said this, okay? You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have certain key principles within your program, you are never going to win. The first one is toughness. If you don't have a tough team, a tough-minded head coach, just guys that want to go to work, guys that have that attitude, guys who love football. You have to love it. And you have to be selfless. You have to have those types of players in your program. And yeah, you're going to have guys with egos and stuff. But overwhelmingly, you have to have the right people from a mindset standpoint, tough-minded people. Next thing, you need to be a good special teams team. You got to be. You have to have great special teams, especially at a team like Arkansas, especially like Indiana, when you're going to be, you're not always going to have the best talent. But you can win on special teams. You may not have the best offense personnel-wise. You may not have the best defense personnel-wise. Special teams maybe doesn't matter as much personnel-wise. It's about doing everything right. It's about being sound and just being solid on special teams, practicing it hard, except for kickoff return. You should never return kickoffs. But win on special teams. That's an area that you can win despite your talent. Turnovers. Arkansas is a horrendously awful turnover team. Awful turnover team. What did they have, 20-something lost turnovers and forced 10 on the whole year? They were last in the SEC in the number of turnovers they lost. They were last in the SEC in the number of turnovers they gained. First, I guess you'd say, in the number that they lost. The bad way, yeah. So, terrible turnover team last year. It's one reason you're 2-10. And penalties, man. Arkansas was awful in the penalty department last year. Now, some of it felt like there was some kind of agenda against Bobby Petrino. I mean, it was insane in a couple of those. Texas and Mississippi State was just ludicrous, the number of penalties they had. But a lot of those were justified penalties. The majority of them were justified. Didn't feel like they were calling it both ways all the time, but the majority was justified. Arkansas was a terrible penalty team. They were a terrible turnover team, and they weren't tough. And aside from Devin Bale, weren't great on special teams. So those have got to be cornerstones for your program. And Indiana, I think, has that stuff figured out. You got to get the right people. But, man, toughness has got to be at the top of the list. You have got to have guys that are dedicated, that can't get enough, that just can't get enough. People who are obsessive, like, I know that because, and I'm not saying like I would be like, anything. I'm just saying like for the job that I do, I obsess over this stuff. Like, and sometimes it gets me in trouble because I obsess over little things that don't ultimately matter, but I also need that. I need that obsession for, that's just kind of like a byproduct that sometimes keeps me up till 1:30 because, I obsessed over something that was kind of meaningless really to everybody but me. But you have to have that kind of mentality. It's one of the reasons I asked Ryan Silverfield if you're weird, because you got to be weird. I look at all these coaches out there, man, Nick Saban, like you can say what you want about Nick Saban. Doesn't always, he kind of looks at people weird, like, doesn't always like look dead at the camera or look dead at people, people in the eye. Lane Kiffin, weird person, Mike Leach, very strange individual. Eric Musselman. Eric Musselman after a loss was like this, like just couldn't stand it. Yeah. Ask a question. Yeah, we got to do better at that. Just mad. Dan Lanning after a game just like vibrating because he's so full of energy, just like looks like he's like methed out or something. I'm not alleging he's methed out, but just, just kind of how he looks, just all these coaches, the ones that are really great are weird. Kirby Smart looks like he just got asked to do math in public. That's not me. That's that Bama guy. I don't care about nothing but the Tide. I don't know if you guys have seen that Instagram or TikTok guy. Kirby still looks like he just got asked to do math in public. Blitz, Bama Blitz, that guy. I don't know if you've seen him. Pretty funny. Okay. Thorhog says he has a few questions. Have any of you heard of the possible candidates for defensive line coach? Not yet. I have not. Do you think they will have 2 defensive line coaches? Why not have 3? 4? 4 too many? What about 4? 1 for every single person up front, including the jack. I mean, they have 3 guys who have been announced as secondary coaches, so why not have 3 or 4 defensive line coaches? But yeah, it's definitely possible they could have 2. But no, I have not heard yet. That stuff usually gets, We get some stuff here and there when it comes to coaching services. With when Pittman was hired, we got a pretty good bit of intel on coaching searches, just there's some connections. But when there's a overhaul staff change like that, a lot of times you really have to work and kind of redevelop some of your sources from within the program. But most of these stuff nowadays it's Matt Zenitz who is breaking Matt Zenitz probably breaks like 90% of the coaching search stuff that comes out right now. He's with 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports, but he probably is about 90% of all the coaching assistant hires and stuff. And I don't know Matt's sources exactly, but I do know that national guys tend to get their information from agents. So agents are going to deal with people on a national scale. They don't usually deal with local reporters and stuff. So right now we have not heard who defensive. The only thing that I've heard just kind of on the side is like keep an eye on Nathan Brown as a possibility at quarterback's coach. Not that it's happened, but seems like it could. I mean, guy with Arkansas connections and stuff. When do you think all these coaches? Yeah, another one about when are these going to become official? Guess is as good as mine on that one. I'm surprised it hadn't, at least a couple come out here and there. The Great White 50 says, have they said any more about how fans can donate to NIL? Why is Hunter so against collectives? I don't think he's against collective. He's just had 2 failed ones. I mean, the idea is that collectives are supposed to not impact as much anymore. That's the idea. So all I've been told is there is a couple of things they're working on to get, the common fan to be able to donate to NIL. There's a couple of things they're working on. No idea when that's going to be or anything. I've mentioned the fan stake deal looks like something that you can do to donate, but also from what I understand with how they want to do things, this is not how it's going to work out because teams are always going to look to push the envelope. Teams are always going to cheat. Ed Orgeron the other day on a podcast said that the biggest adjustment for them with NIL was they had to go from taking the cash through the back door to the players now to taking the cash through the front door to the players. Like basically saying, yeah, we paid players illegally before and now we pay them legally. Or we did, when he was still coaching. But so teams will find ways to cheat. And we brought this up several times. You go look at like Arkansas's record against other teams, and Arkansas doesn't have any vacated wins against anybody. But pretty much everybody they've played has vacated wins against Arkansas in this conference. Auburn, Ole Miss, Missouri, LSU, Alabama. You go on down the list. I don't know if Mississippi State does, but all those teams that I just mentioned, they have vacated wins against Arkansas because they were caught cheating. Think about all the times that teams were not cheating. Arkansas has probably cheated. They just hadn't been very good at it, I guess. They just hadn't been very good at it. But all the teams report minor infractions all the time to the NCAA. Like, in fact, if you're not reporting minor infractions, that would like raise a flag to them. Like, how are they not reporting anything? So you should always be reporting minor infractions. I mean, just the way it is. But the idea with NIL moving forward is it's supposed to, and that's why Hunter used the word legitimate. And because the idea of pulling your money together to give it to a player, millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars to give to a player, and then find out ways that he can make that make sense is supposed to be, the aim of that is to kind of very much mitigate that, make that go away. That's the aim. Doesn't mean it'll happen, but that is the aim. And the reason I make that point, because people tell, like this guy that one day, it's like, you said this was going to take away NIL and, it was all going to be even. And that's not what I said. So I want to make sure that I make that. And I always say to people, like, show me where. You can come back and apologize, or you can come back and show me the clip of where I said that. But that is the aim, and that should be the aim, because NIL is not NIL. NIL is paying players. It's like you're washing money through a collective and calling it name, image, and likeness when it's just pay for play. That's all it is. So the idea is to get rid of that pay for play concept, to get rid of that and make it legitimate, where like you actually have a deal with a soda company or a shoe company or something like that. That is all real. And people have brought up stuff like, well, you can't tell a player, somebody called in Drive Times, like you can't tell LeBron James he can't make money off Nike. You know, that's not America. That's not America. But that's a legitimate deal. Nike isn't telling LeBron James where to go play basketball. Nike thinks LeBron James can move sneakers for him. You know? So if there's a law firm in Arkansas that thinks, you know what, I think that such and such player, you know, we like Arkansas, but I think he can, you know, help us with injury law or something. You know, that would be legitimate. But pulling your money to get like the idea of like putting all your money together to and running it through a charity. Like, so an athlete in the past has, you know, been money be given to a charity, or money like a charity would pay the athlete basically to do speaking engagements, like all that kind of charity stuff is kind of going away. Like, you know, they kind of recognize the loop around with that kind of stuff. So you're like all the NIL charity stuff, I think you're going to see that dramatically reduced moving forward also, or at least supposed to be. So Hunter's not against collective. He's just not very good at putting them together, I guess. They had 2 failed collectives. One Arkansas failed, and Arkansas Edge was just a train wreck. So what Arkansas has to do is basically figure out a way to get to about, in my opinion, if you really want to talk about being competitive, being the upper half of the SEC, they need to figure out a way to get to like $25 million total in revenue sharing and NIL. So revenue sharing is $20.5 million. And where did that number come from? $20.5 million comes from the average of Power 4 conferences revenue. And they take 22% of that. I don't know how they came out with 22%. So from there, after that $20.5 million, the SEC programs have agreed to remove 2.5 off the top of that to go directly to scholarships, to help pay for scholarships, because scholarships are, you know, increased across all these different sports and stuff. You know, baseball's got a ton of scholarships, all this kind of stuff. So they've agreed to take 2.5 off of that. So that leaves you with 18. Football is allegedly supposed to be at 75% of that remaining $18 million, which leaves you with $13.5 million to spend in football. So from there, you need to get to about $25 million. Okay. So you need to find about $11.5, $12 million through legitimate NIL, to get you to about $25 million. You can have a $25 million roster. So what does that look like? For a 105-man roster? I think you should probably worry about your top 60 players. If it were me, you worry about your 2 deep, you know, that gets you to 44 players. You worry about your kicker, your punter, snapper, you know, not that your kicker gets a lot, but your punter gets some, your snapper gets a little. You worry about those guys, you know, so, and then from there, you know, 15 elite recruits. That's who I would worry about, you know, so you're worried about, you know, about 60 players with $25 million. Your quarterback's going to cost you a couple $1 million. Arkansas has to go get a quarterback. I mean, I like KJ Jackson. I think he's got a lot of tools. I like his size. I like his arm. He's a lefty. I like that. I like his demeanor. I like his attitude. If I were looking at KJ and somebody's like, what do you think of KJ? Just looking at him, I'd be like, I bet he's a good guy. I bet he's a fun guy. Just the look of him, you know. I like the way he looks. He's a good-looking guy. Good-looking quarterback. 6'4", probably every bit of that. Nice arm. Mobile. People seem to like him, you know. Those are good qualities for a quarterback. I always hate when you look at a quarterback and he's just like, kind of furrow brow, kind of like me, furrow brow, and he's just like robo, like doesn't answer questions. KJ looks to me like he's got a joke. He's gonna, what I mean? Like he's just kind of got that look like he's got a joke that he's going to tell you, that he just heard or something that's hilarious. That's what I think of when I look at KJ. So having said all that, and I wanted to make sure I said that, because Arkansas cannot afford to put everything in on KJ. The most important position in all of sports is quarterback. They cannot afford to go all in on quarterback. Okay. With KJ Jackson, they have to go out and get a guy who is proven, because it's the hardest position to evaluate. You don't practice these guys live. You don't, they're never getting hit in practice. So many times you go through a season and you realize, hey, we got the wrong guy. And you don't realize it until your starter goes down and you realize, oh, Kyle Trask is actually better than Felipe Franks, or Chandler Morris goes down at TCU and then Max Duggan leads them to the national championship game at TCU. Things like that happen all the time because it's impossible to evaluate the quarterbacks. You got to go out and get somebody who has proven and done it. You cannot say, like, we're going to put all this money in, all this extra stuff, we're going to put all this extra finances into football, and then we're going to hope that this guy's the right guy at quarterback. Big reason Brian Kelly got fired is Max Nussmeier, Garrett Nussmeier didn't play that well. Same way with Jackson Arnold. And Hugh Freeze said as much. And shouldn't have, but it's true. Jackson Arnold's play helped get Hugh Freeze fired. And Clark Lee gets a bunch of credit for Vanderbilt, and I'm sure he deserves a lot of it. But let's see how they do without 23-year-old Diego Pavia next year. That's all I'm saying. So make sure you go out and get the right quarterback. All right, everybody, I want to thank our sponsors. Thanks for Connor Goodson hopping on with us as well. That's it. That's the show today. We'll be back with you guys next week on Monday unless something crazy happens. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll catch you next time.